The Q2 2023 Dataslate has dropped and brings even more changes to the field. Some much asked for and needed buffs, along with some more efforts at lowering the overall tankiness of some teams. Before we get into it, thanks for watching. As always, this is YouTube, so if you're new to the channel and enjoy tabletop content currently focusing on Kill Team and also dabbling in Big 40k, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Maybe the like if you're interested. And also know that we have a Discord community linked in the description below where we talk about rules, share battles we took part in, or just show off our latest projects. We'd be happy to have you. That said, let's take a look at what we are dealing with this quarter. Starting at the top, no new core rules or anything. Most of the main rules we know remain intact. A key change comes to the Critical Operations 2022 mission pack. The loot mission has been upped from 3 maximum scoreable points per objective to 4. This might not seem like much, but most objectives tend to be accessible in Turning Point 1, so before this change, all objectives would usually be tapped out going into Turning Point 4. Making that entire round only about tac ops. This changes the overall flow of loot-based matches. It is still worth trying to get to and hold down objectives to prevent capture, as well as trying to secure loot under the enemy's nose. A potentially exciting change. From Season 1, there are only a couple adjustments. One of the big ones comes to the Warp Coven. The evolved Compendium team got a much-needed buff in the form of upping all Rubric Marines to APL 3. As well, increasing their total melee attacks with fists and bayonets to 4 instead of 3. This is huge because prior to this, the team had less base APL as an elite team than any other, making it near impossible for them to truly take and hold anything. Not to lose the fluff, however, if the Rubric Marines activate outside of 6 inches from a sorcerer, they will be hit with a sort of stun and lose an APL for the turn. Prior to this, sorcerers would only supply 1 APL to a Rubric Marine that activated near them once. This new setup would allow 2 sorcerers to wander the field with their mobility functions and wreak some havoc, while the third remains in proximity to the Dusty Ghost Golems, providing them their full APL. It would also allow you to take less sorcerers if you want, for whatever reason you might have, and not suffer too much for the decision. This change isn't game-breaking or anything, but it should give the Warp Coven a nudge towards not being so underwhelming, and actually make them a worthwhile opponent in the kill zone. The only other change from Season 1 is a redo of an undo. The Elysidian Starstrider Voidsman Rotor Cannon once again comes with the Relentless special rule for the full rerolls. Games Workshop appears to still be trying to tune this powerful force on the field with a slight buff after a decent nerf. Nothing else from Season 1, so on to Season 2. A lot of the big changes with the Kin Band and the Hyrotech remain the same. The nerfs for the Breachers still stand as well. The Intercessors picked up a handful of nerfs, however. Durable, Methodical, and Rapid all changed. From what I can gather, Durable is now only a reduction of 1 damage on 1 critical roll from each overall fight or shoot action against them to a minimum of 3. This, of course, started, I believe, as 1 damage less on all criticals with no minimum. This reduction of tankiness is seen in other spots from prior nerfs and seems to be the way the balance is leaning right now. This, of course, helps lower damage guns that barely have crit damage on them, which are mostly found in the hands of more squishy opponents. Methodical now only helps by preventing ballistic skill reduction for Overwatch attacks, down from preventing all modifiers to ballistic skill and weapon skill. This is pretty big, since basic injury now is no longer adjusted by this. Rapid now also only provides 1 inch extra movement to the move action only. Still pretty good, but taking it away from charge lowers threat range for the melee-focused intercessors, giving opponents a little more ability to position on the field. 3 decent nerfs for one of the tankiest teams in the game. From here, we move into the newer teams. The Exaction Squad, by all accounts of people looking to play them, really needed buffs. They lacked both damage and survivability, even though they had an interesting flavor concept with the arrest function. Against the beefier teams, they lost all ability to pretty much do anything. With the buffs laid out, it appears Games Workshop is aiming to alleviate their lack of damage and some survivability. First up, their team ability, Ruthless Efficiency, is gaining a new tier of function. Within 2 inches of the enemy, all units' guns gain the P1 special rule. This should help a little against elite teams and drastically increase the Mallocator's function of allowing units attacking a target to retain one normal hit as a crit. Another buff also helps with this, but before that, the Exaction Squad has also gained 1 wound to their base characteristics. This puts them in line with a buff received by the Kasserkin in the last Dataslate. It might not seem like much, but 8 wounds is the difference between dying to a normal and critical hit from a bolter and needing 2 critical hits instead. It makes them beefier in melee, which should help any shield bearers who are trying to hold the enemy down. Overall, the 8 wounds, alongside the team size, is just very needed. Past this, 3 units have been upgraded to have lethal 5 on their weapons. The Cybermastiff's Mechanical Bite, the Marksman Executioner's Shotgun, and the Revelatum's Scoped Shot Pistol. The Cybermastiff was regarded as one of the worst recent dogs to take the field. This lethal 5 should help put him up the ladder a little, as his crit damage of 5 will be seen a bit more. The Marksman was also considered one of the worst snipers. Lethal 5 will help him out with trying to get the Mortal Wounds 3 trigger, and if an enemy gets close, you could still tack the P1 onto it with the team ability. The Revelatum will also see a good bit of benefit, as it is meant to start the game from a close position and also carries a Mortal Wound gun onto the field. Not finished yet, they had a massive change with one of their tack ploys. Execution Order originally cost 1 command point and could only be performed once per game. Now it can be used multiple times and has a scaling cost, starting from 0 and gaining 1 every time you use it. This allows your leader to paint targets for the rest of the squad to get full rerolls against them with melee and ranged. One big issue I found when playing against my friend's Exaction Squad was the insanely limited damage they had. 3 of these buffs, when woven together, should give this team the ability to really start to push numbers out that could hopefully see elites falling to them fairly easily, or at least in a more balanced fashion. Quick reminder, many of these buffs will carry over if these units are taken as an auxiliary for the Inquisitorial kill team. I imagine we may see these units in use a little more alongside them. Next up, the Hearthkin. The steady advance ability was changed from simply ignoring modifiers to movement to now adding an inch to the normal move action. This should speed them up a little bit and feels a little better since the prerequisite for it doesn't require you to start taking hits or getting debuffed. Better to just have the constant. And then for the only new team to take a hit, the Chaos Cult. I haven't had the time yet to break mine out for a game, but I have heard tale of how hard they are to beat. This seems to be a general thing for Kill Team. The squads focused mostly on melee seem to always be overtuned. The Gellerpox, the Felgor, the Legionary to an extent, and now the Cult. I don't know how I feel about this change though. The Iconarch damage reductions minimum is reduced to 3 instead of 2. Normally a change that happens to elites, although the Breachers did get hit in a similar fashion. I do feel like the aim to get the Cult in line is going to be related to their survivability, just like the Gellerpox with their regular units feel no pain reduction, alongside their Techno Curse limit, as well as the changes to the Intercessors and Legionary. This may be the first, but it is certainly not the last nerf I feel the cults will see going forward, and I'm sure a future update will also be adjusting the Inquisitorial agents as well, but they did manage to dodge the crosshairs this time. All in all, some good adjustments. Good to see the Warp Coven get elevated a little into the realm of an actual elite team. Funny to see the return of the Relentless Rotor Cannon for the Starstriders, as well as what I feel is a very good first pass at making the Exaction Squad potentially viable. There are still a lot of multi-triggers to make them work, but I feel the adjustments should see better spikes in damage against the more durable opponents they come across. Interesting though that the Hand of the Archon saw no changes. Potentially not enough information on them, although having played against my friend's hand team, they felt very complete. If any adjustments come to them, they may end up being minor by comparison to some of these other teams. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this breakdown of the quarters rules has hyped you up for another season of Kill Team. I'm certainly looking forward to breaking out my Warp Coven once again. Do you play any of the teams that saw adjustments, and how do you feel about the changes? Let us know in the comments below. And again, if you're interested in joining our community Discord, the link will be in the description. As always, likes for the like god and subscribes for the subscribe throne. I am Kimmerix, and I'll see you in the next one.